It's time to go live. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and this is The Right Mindset. We are live because it is Saturday, the 30th of August. That's right, this year is almost up. Every Saturday and Sunday, we have a live video where it is I, Thomas, do either writing advice or we're going over craft or some business. And then every Sunday, it's Write a Book with Me series from concept to conception, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. I know there's a lot of information, but just know today, we're going to lean more towards the business of writing, the mistakes you might be making as an author in your career. These are not, you're forgetting to add a hook in your first chapter. No. These are going to be mistakes you might be making, and you're saying to yourself, my career should be much further along than it is. And why isn't it? So today we are going to go over 5 mistakes that you could potentially, and then maybe a bonus one. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a bonus one. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But more importantly, remember through the entire adventure, uh, as the thing says, feel free to ask questions. Hey, what's up, M? Good morning, afternoon, and if I don't see you, good night. Howdy, Ro. Yeah. So while I'm going over these 5 mistakes writers make in their career, please know you can ask questions for clarification. If you want me to go a little deeper into it, whatever you would like. Hi, you're underwater. Oh, I'll fix that. I'll fix that. Fixed. I fixed it. Oh. I fixed it. Fixed. Yeah. I forgot I had to take off the echo thing. Hello, hey, what's up? Gerbil, gerbil, blah, blah. Now we're back. I got out of the water. I swam up. Blah, 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 blah. So as I was saying, I'm gonna go over 5 things, 5 mistakes writers usually make in their careers. But feel free to ask questions. We'll go deeper and deeper. Is it safe to turn up? It is safe to turn up. Go for it. Is it safe to turn up? I fixed it. All right. Also, there is a poll in the description, the comments. What's the best advice you've ever received about a writing career? These 4 aren't necessarily today's discussion. That's why I put them on there. But study the business of writing, build your network, don't compare yourself to others, and of course, learn to pitch. All right, we'll talk about that a little bit later after we go over these. Let's start getting into it. So the first one is, let's get to, boom, no website. And I know what you're saying. You're like, Thomas, who has time for a website? I don't have time for a website. But the reality of the situation is, listen, you might be like, I have social media. I don't need a website. But your website is your storefront. Your website is your central hub. Your website is the difference between I am a professional running a career, a business, versus, hey, I like writing on the side. Now, am I saying if you don't have a website, you're not a professional author? No, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you are a professional author, you should have a website. Websites are the beacon of potential. And let me explain that. Have you ever listened to an interview with somebody like an author? Or, maybe you're on social media and they write something and they're like, hey, check if you want to find me, go to, and then they start listing all their social media, but everything is either different or a really long thing. So they might be like, hey, go to Instagram / Mixelwriter72, because I was 12 when I made it up. Mixel is something I like, right? And then they're like, but you could also find me on Facebook, which is my name, and then their name is really long, and sometimes it has like their name might be like more or less not great, but not spelled more or less, and not spelled not great, but spelled in a way that pronounces more or less not great. So one of the things, which is why, by the way, when you notice, whenever I say go to my website, it's makearightleft.here.com. Do you have what it takes to make a right left here? Do you? Do you now? Do you? Right? So I created a slogan. This was something I was taught in the music industry. Okay? Because a lot of times you see a band's logo and you're like, I don't know what that is. It's all scratched up, right? So it's the same thing with authors. Sometimes I'm not saying don't have your name though. There is thomasjbellezza.com, but it just brings you right to makearightleftheere.com. But the point is, everything should be simple, easy marketing that doesn't allow your potential audience to have to really put a lot of thought into it. So when people always like in interviews, how do I find you? I just go to makearightleftheere.com. Now it does a couple things. It's branding. It's weird and awkward like I am. It's a play on words, which is something that I love doing. Okay. But more importantly, when you go there, it's the traveling adventures of a resilient entertainer. And therefore, it all fits into the Make a Right Left Here because we're all down a different path. We're making lefts and rights. Should I have gone left? Should I have gone right? Should I have made a straight? So the point is, when it comes to your website, definitely get your website URL as your name, but also try to think of something that might be connected to your brand. Now, one thing you could do with the websites is actually get the URL of your most current book. All right. So I don't know if you know this, if you don't have a website already, but you could have multiple URLs that all go to the same domain, the same site. Okay. So you can do that. That's another thing. I don't recommend doing this for people that don't have the extra money, but because it's like $14 a year for that URL. But even Britney Spears and a couple other celebrities, and especially when I was in the music industry, they'd actually buy misspelled URLs. Did you know that? They'd spell their names. They'd do incorrect URLs because it isn't uncommon for people to spell names wrong, etc., etc., etc. But my point is, have a website. It is there to tell people how to find you, where to find you, your social medias, when your books are coming out. Your books are coming out, are out. And it's just an easy thing. Like if I want to go to Target or name Superstore here, I go there for everything I need. I know that Target or Walmart or Super Center, BJ's or whatever is it's a place in the States. It's not or Sam's Club, right? You know what you're going to get there. So that's what your website is really supposed to be. So in closing, with no website, you should have a website. Get your name as a URL, and then get something that's more of a slogan or a theme or like I have, Make a Right Left Here. It's attached to the general understanding of my overall brand. But if you really want to get a little creative, you can also create URLs that are based on the titles of your book. And then it brings you to those areas. All right. Obviously, any questions, I will happily. Oh, we got one. Should you try to establish a website before releasing anything? The rule of thumb is, this actually, funny you mentioned this. I talk about that in the book. Sometimes people say, well, I shouldn't have a website now because I'm not established. And the reality is, get a website. It doesn't matter if you've been doing this for a couple years. It doesn't matter if you don't have a book yet. It doesn't matter if you do have a book. Just get a website. So should you try to establish a website before releasing anything? The answer to that is no. You should just have a website. You don't have to really build an audience to that website before you say, I have a book, right? Because remember, the book is a byproduct of your brand. But in reality, what you're doing is you're just trying to build your brand. So if you have a website now and you've been building your brand on social media, that's fine. If you haven't been establishing your brand on social media, well, now it's going to just be advantageous to basically have a website anyway and just let everybody get to the website, not necessarily check me out on Facebook. Like, you want people to go to the website. So should you try to establish a website before releasing anything? No, you don't have to. It's actually your brand you should be establishing before anything, but you should have these foundational things in place. So, for example, let's say I have a website, but I'm focused on just brand building. It's not like I shouldn't have a website when I'm brand building, but brand building is different than having a website. So the rule here is you should have a website. The brand building is that you're doing that all the time. Brand building is taking your missions, morals, and purposes, which is your voice, your image, the style, look, and representation through presentation. And then, of course, you have the conversation, which is between you and the audience. Are they seeing and responding to what you believe in? Voice and how you represent that, the image. and you should be developing that. But that's a whole other story. That's a whole thing. So in short, just have a website. But I don't think you should hold off on anything before anything, if that makes sense. For example, when I was in the music industry, bands would say, well, we should get an album before we start playing shows, or before we incorporate ourselves or turn ourselves into an LLC, we should have X amount of fans or be making money. Like, all those things don't make any sense. Just get things done, get things started, have the thing, start laying the foundation for everything. So that's my advice on that. All right, next. Forgetting about older books. All right, now, obviously, if you only have one book or haven't released any books yet, this is something to think about for when you start releasing books and when you start having a catalog, whether that catalog is a catalog of 1, 2, 3, or more. But old books can keep you earning money. That's right. But a lot of authors, what they do is they abandon their older books for their newer books. And please tell me you've heard this or haven't heard this. I don't know. But authors will say, oh, this new book is my best book yet. This book is great, right? I like my older book, but this new one, I read this one. This one is my best work so far. If you've heard that, you are making an adjacent career mistake that writers make, where they're always saying the next thing I made is the best thing. All your stuff is good. It's just the evolution of something. But the idea to say, don't read the other stuff because this is my best work, you're undermining your entire package deal of books previous release. Note to self, start a website. Yes, Ro, start a website. So when it comes to your older books, your job is to make sure that your brand connects to all of them. Imagine Stephen King going, I wouldn't read Carrie or It or Christine. Like, skip those books, because this new book that I released is by far the greatest book I've ever written, and you'd be wasting your time with those older books. His bills get paid because Carrie exists. It exists. The Stand exists. Stand By Me exists. Like, Shawshank Redemption became a popular movie, right? Even though he really only sold the licensing rights for like $1 or something like that, or $5. But my point is, your older books are not worse than your newest book, and your newest book isn't the best thing you've written. What you should be doing is just marketing your brand, who you are, what you represent, the things that matter to you, because those will sort of leak into or persuade or inspire people to go, I agree and disagree with certain things, but I agree with this, and let me look into that. Oh, look, their books sort of have a lot of their themes and thoughts and ideas, and I love the way they talk about these subjects, because they're not in your face, they're subtextual, things like that. That's what brand does. It connects, like Stephen King's brand is horror and small towns and not major twists, but like, there's a deep lore to his stuff. It turns out his books are connected. So that all becomes part of branding, right? Which brings it to the older books, okay? So I read this book. Oh, wow, it's connected to these books. Oh, interesting. Let me go check those books. So let me tell you a little something you could do to fix this, all right? What you can do is, for older books, you can repackage older books. Thomas, wait, you could repackage older books? Yes, you could do recovers, right? Because that's always special. You could do a second edition, which is maybe you go in and you clean it up. Maybe you add scenes, take scenes out. Maybe you're like, oh, there was something I always wanted to do in this book and I didn't think I could, but wait a minute, Thomas just told me I could repurpose my book and I could do a second edition, okay? Or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth, okay? And then what you do is you ultimately market your books together, because remember, it's, hey, Thomas J. Bellezza, make a right left here. I'm an author. I have some books. By the way, these are the books I'm working on. That's what you should be looking. I mean, you shouldn't say your name is Thomas J. Bellezza, but I appreciate the shout out. But ultimately, what you want people to do is connect your name to the books and not necessarily a book to your name, if that makes sense. Yeah, if we go back to Stephen King, you go, Stephen King wrote Carrie, you don't say Carrie was written by Stephen King. Oh, Stephen King wrote some really scary horror books. Those happen to be XYZ, right? It's because Stephen King is the brand. That's why his name is huge on top of all the books, okay? And then, like, the title of the book exists, all right? Because he worked on the brand like that. But you have the right and the freedom to rework, repurpose, and reorganize older books. You're allowed to recover older books. I recommend that, especially, here's an example, Brandon Sanderson. I don't know if you ever heard of this guy, brand new author, small independent guy. He had a book that his publisher released, and it wasn't selling, so they were going to stop releasing it. They weren't going to do a reprint, and he said, listen, Miss Bond, I think, has the power to sell. You got to change the cover. This is the cover I think we should do. And they like, we don't want to do that cover. He talks about it in interviews. I recommend going to his channel when you get a chance. No, right now we're doing this. But on his channel, in those interviews, he talks about how he had to fight with his publisher to get the book cover changed. And once he changed the cover, it was in the top-selling catalog. So it became a top seller, and it was just because they rebranded it. And that's the thing. You're not beholden to what you publish. You're allowed to change things up. You're allowed to recycle it. You're allowed to make it interesting or new. You're allowed to add or take stuff out. You are not beholden to I published it. Because even the greats, we've talked about this, Tolkien, Frankenstein, all these things. Okay, Mary Shelley. All these authors re-release their books with changes and alterations. And when a movie comes out that's based on a book, what do they usually do? They do like a movie cover. They do like a movie cover for that book. All right. So it's not uncommon for the greats to do it. So remember, you can do it. But you should also still keep marketing your older books. Alternate ending. You make a joke, Ro. You make a joke. But that is not unheard of. In fact, the movie Clue came out, and there are multiple endings. There's nothing wrong with making a book series that have multiple endings, especially if you have, the supply and demand, right? If you have the demand, no, joking. No, but I'm saying, like, if you have like a book, you can have like, this book series has 3 alternate endings, and you could either put all 3 endings in the book itself and say, if you want this ending, this ending, and this ending, go to that page. I mean, there are books where like you get to the end and it says, if you want the character to go through door A, go to page 30. If you want to go through door B, go to page 20, right? So it's not unheard of. You're allowed to do so much with writing, and sometimes we kind of get lost in that. Serious just drives others nuts. It can drive people nuts. I just want to say one more thing about older books, and then I'm going to move on to the third thing. Unless, of course, anyone has questions about what I just talked about, I am always happy to go deeper. All right. So, this is like an aside to older books. You should figure out what book is basically your funnel book, your magnet book. If you have a YouTube channel, they say the same thing. If you have a strong video on your YouTube channel, make more videos like that. But that's not what I'm about to say. But also use that video as a push. Like, make sure people see that video because it has a strong magnet effect. So it's the same thing with your books. If a book let's say you have 2 books or more, and one of those books is selling a lot, put a lot of time into the ads. Hone those ads, get those ads going, get the keywords going, get the right amount of bid money on the Amazon for it. And you just use that as a magnet sale, right? You just let people go through that book ad and they buy your books and then they find your other books. Every time a new book comes out, add a new ad, and but keep that other ad going for your older books. My point is, remember your older books. Okay, what we got here? The Dark Tower even had an alternate ending. Yeah, the Dark Tower sure did have an alternate ending. I think about that series quite often and say to myself, he was definitely trying something. 3, quitting day jobs too soon. I know a few people who do this. They go, hey, I can make a living with this, but in reality, Uh, by the way, the reason it's hard to make a living as a writer is because when you start off as a writer trying to make a living, it's focused on let me sell books. But in reality, you have to look at your career as an author as multifaceted. Am I saying you should become an editor, a ghostwriter, a line editor, a professional beta reader, or whatever? I'm not saying you should, but you could. Because you have to look at what is your skill level, what is it you do to be a writer, break that up and say, what else could I do? But more importantly, can you run writing classes? Can you run reading groups? Can you, right? And you're saying, but Thomas, how does that make me money? Because it builds your expertise within your community, your name starts growing, and it's that involvement, even if you're volunteering, that establishes, hey, this person knows what they're doing. I want to read their books. Because remember, no one buys a book just because you wrote it. There's so much more involved. There's networking, there's marketing, and there's learning your industry by practicing to develop your strengths and weaknesses, to better establish yourself within your circle of influences, and join the tables to best lead, follow, and advise. So some people will quit their jobs going, I think my book is going to sell. They're like, let's do it. They don't have a startup capital holding down their overhead. If you're going to quit your jobs, I do recommend having at least 18 months of overhead supplying you so you can start getting involved in your community, your industry. And that's the secret. That is a very important part. You have to also get involved. You cannot save up 18 months of money to afford your overhead and then say, I'll just write books for 18 months. No, you should be writing books, but you should also be doing other things. Remember, you got to start establishing yourself either through social media, but also physically. Here's an example of how important getting involved in your community is, okay? When I had the theater, okay, we got involved with the Red Hats. Okay, there's it's like local old ladies, and they all wear red hats, and they group together and go to events, but they also read books. Then you have, I think they're called the Pink Ties, if I remember. In New York, there was an organization called the Pink Ties, and it's people that like survive cancer, but it's 4 men who I believe I gotta look that up. It's been like 15 years or 14 years, yeah, something like that. Again, groups, right? Now, if you get involved in your library, if you get involved in a college, if you get involved in a high school for 18-year-olds and older, and you're doing like writing groups or whatever the case is, the more your name is connected to those things, the more opportunities come your way. And it's all about, how do I develop group sales? Now, this is important too. I have friends within communities, right? So that led to an opportunity with a major store franchise interested in my book, which I wouldn't have been able to get to that meeting as smoothly without this third-party introduction. Okay? Community led to that. Now, why is that important? Well, here's a little behind-the-scenes kind of stuff, okay? If you go through Ingram Sparks, and I know some people across the pond, so I do not know how across the pond works. I just know how in the States works. But if you're going through Ingram Sparks, whereas on Amazon you might get $5 a book after everything, with Ingram Sparks you'll get like $2 a book or $1 a book. And you're saying, well, that's terrible. But if you get like a franchise like a Books A Million or Barnes and Nobles, okay, or even mom and pop shops, whatever the case is, they buy through Ingram, but they're not going to buy 2 books. They're going to buy a grouping, right? So I on the down low, I may have spoken with some people, like I said, but during that conversation, I'll give you a little insight. They're looking to buy 500 to 1,000 books. So that's at minimum, we're looking at, what is that, $1,000 to $2,000, right? Just for one sale. Now, obviously, I have selected on Ingram Sparks for them to do a return. So if they're not selling, they're going to return. But you say, Thomas, how do you make that advantageous? Well, they said within the meeting, if a percentage of those books sell 30 to 50% of all books from all stores. So if they buy 500 books and through all the stores, a total of 250 sell, they will buy another grouping, right? So, which would probably be 500. Now, if they all sell, they'll double up. So 500, they'll end up buying 1,000 for the next. So then you say, but Thomas, how do we ensure those sell? Well, I got a great cover, so maybe that'll help. Well, you'll have the advantage of being on the new releases. So if you have a nice tight cover, that will help you because on new releases, the books are usually like this. They're facing the door, But once they're on the shelves, sometimes it might be side. So how do you build on this? I'm going to give you some inside information because if you're going to quit your job, you got to be prepared. You got to think above and beyond, right? You should be trying to get college interviews, get on the radio with colleges. They are most likely to take a quote unquote, and this is not negative, but a unknown author. You get on the college, you say, hey, listen, I'm doing a signing, because that's what they do. If they're going to take your book, you can choose to do some signings in those stores because they want you to come in because they buy the books from Ingram to have because you don't bring your books. They buy your books through Ingram. They have them delivered, and then they're there for the signing. So you go to colleges around the area of that school, and there might be 2 or 3 colleges, and you try to get your interviews to happen a week or 2 weeks before the event, okay? And then you start talking. You say, hell yeah, I'm doing a signing for this book. And then you tell the host, by the way, before you start the show, you go, let's not talk about the book. Let's talk about my expertise, whatever that is. So if I write fantasy or romance, let's just talk about fantasy and romance books. If the self-help book, let's talk about the business of entertainment. So just talk to me about business entertainment. The book is secondary because you want people to connect with you and see your expertise and hear your expertise. So, all right. Now, the second thing is try to get on AM and FM. Now, the way I got on FM radio, especially back in New York, is my community. I had friends and family who were connected somehow, either third party or directly, with multiple different outlets. That got me to WRCN and WBLI. I also was friends with a guy named Fingers. He's a big name, heavy metal on Long Island. So community, that's why it's so important to get seen, be present, be seen in your community, because those led to me getting co-host, not guest interviews, co-host opportunities on an FM and also AM and also college. Okay. So those are important because those interviews and those opportunities to be heard, by the way, radio, people still listen to radio, I assure you, but getting on that, those outlets will increase the traffic, the foot traffic to your book signings, which then will influence the potential for another buy of your book. So they'll do another 500 to 1,000. Okay. Now, I did talk to people who deal with the Walmart and also the Target, and they do a minimum of 1,000 buys. And if it sells X amount by the 3 to 6 month period, okay, there's like if you sell X amount of books by this time, they'll go, all right, we'll give you a little bit more time. And then if you sell a little bit, so it compounds, like they also do like compound sales. But what Walmart wants to do, okay, what their end goal is with a book, or even if you design a game or whatever the case is. My friend has she makes like oils and other things for food. She's like a chef, whatever. And the way they did it with her is exactly the same way they do it with books. They have, let's say, a region of stores. And they go, we're going to try it out in this market. And they figure out how many stores are in that specific market. And then they buy enough books to supply each of those with, say, 50 to 100 books. Because they want a deeper discount. Because the way Walmart works is they'll buy a huge bulk of stuff and then pay you in advance. So normally what happens is you pay half, and then when it gets delivered, you pay the other half. But what Walmart does is they buy in great bulk. That's why they can do such discounts. Anyway, my point is, don't quit your day job too soon unless you have a plan, unless you have your financial capital supplying you for 18 months. And remember, Writing books isn't the only part about having a successful career. So you have to create multiple incomes, and you do that either by getting involved with your community and trying to get involved with local stores and also franchises by saying, hey, by the way, I'm a fantasy author, and I could do a 30-minute to 60-minute speech on fantasy. If you do like a fantasy weekend on a Friday, Saturday, I could come in and talk to people at Barnes & Nobles. Barnes & Nobles does that? Yes. Big stores want foot traffic. So if you could provide a discussional thing, or even you say, hey, listen, I'm really good at interviewing people. I have several authors in this field. They have X amount of books. They did this many sales. We could come in on a Friday night or a Saturday, and we could do like an interview series, and people could come in who want to be writers, and we'll have like a thing, and we go, hey, we're fantasy writers. Do you have any questions? And you do like a panel. They want that. If you could create traffic, if you could create opportunity for these locations and these companies. Magic. All right. Any questions on that? I'm going to move on to the next one because I know there's a delay. So if you have any questions on this, feel free. Please. All right. Bloop. Refusing to market. This is the fourth mistake. People who are authors/writers. Oh, we got some. What we got? Bloop. A shrinking violet's nightmare. What? I am lost on that reference, but I know you'll explain it. All right, refusing to market. So I say this often, and I have had this debate with many people who are not only just writers, but musicians and everyone else in the industry, including actors and even magicians, actually. Your book doesn't sell itself. You cannot write a book, finish the book, close your computer, print out the book, and then put the book in the closet, and people are going to knock on your door and go, hey, I heard your book is done. I was wondering if I could give you money for it. It's just not how it works, right? And then you go, well, Thomas, my family and friends buy it. Yeah, but that's marketing and networking. Because if you tell them, that's marketing. If they love you and appreciate you and want to support you, that's networking, because that's your friends and family. Exactly. All right. Well, obviously, Flowers gets the reference. But I don't. All right. But anyway, so refusing to market. Okay. Books don't sell themselves. Even traditionally published expert authors have to drive marketing. They have to create a brand, develop that brand. And then, by the way, marketing is different than advertisement. Advertisement is paid or unpaid pushes of buy my book is available, here's my book, by the way, you can go to my website. That's all advertisement. So you're either going to pay for ads, or you're just going to put on your social media, say, hey, my book is available, you should buy it. Like today, I just did an ad where I said, these are some mistakes that people make. I'm doing a live video. That is an ad. It's a free ad because I did it on social media. But marketing is taking your brand, the things that you represent, your voice, your image, and the conversation with the audience, okay? And representing that to presentation, right? Presentation through representation, which just means you have to basically do the thing you are. Like, so here is, what's funny? I was just having a conversation with a client about this. Let's say you're a romance, or no, let's say you're an epic fantasy author, okay? But on your social media, the only thing you talk about is your cats, and occasionally you talk about your cousins, and maybe once in a while you say, life could be better. I had to pay more bills this week. What is that saying about your brand? And is it related to any of your expertise or the thing you do? The answer should be no. It has nothing to do with what you're doing. Can you post personal things? You can. Absolutely. If you like talking about your life, you like talking about your kids, if you like talking about your family, if you like talking about your cousins and your grandparents, all that's okay. Because it is part of your brand then. It's saying, hey, I'm a family person. I like family. But you also have to add the other elements to your marketing. And it can't just be My book is available, buy my book. You got to talk about your journey and your adventure writing a book. Oh, I got a couple pages done today. I went a little further than I normally did, etc., etc. Those are called adventure posts, right? But that's marketing because you're letting people know you're a writer without saying, buy my book, and now they're going to listen. Because if you look at your social media posts, look at buy my book and see how much interaction that gets, and then look at your adventure posts, like the things you're doing and like your trials and tribulations and, how you feel about something. Those get more interaction because they are authentic. They're truthful, and people want to see you succeed. They just don't want to hear about it. So when you start saying my book is ready, my book is available, that's when you start pushing people away, because it is called pushing, which is pushing an agenda, and also you're pushing the people away. So when it comes to marketing, think about what it is that's important to you. Again, if you write epic fantasy, talk about your journey as a writer, your journey as a writer. But you could also talk about things you don't like in fantasy. You could say, I like this trope, or I don't like this trope. I do free advertising for Thomas to people I talk to, and that is why I love you, Ro. I'll send you some cake. What was I saying? Oh, yes. All right. So when it comes to marketing, if you're a fantasy writer or a romance writer, just talk about the things you like or don't like about that genre. Okay? If there are things happening in the publishing world, you can talk about those things. All this does is connect your brand. And I know brand sounds so disconnected and disingenuous, but I'm using the word so to get your business brain thinking, right? Because remember, it's all about artist brain, business brain. They can't play together, but artist brain should be left alone to do the art, and business brain should be left alone to sell the art, okay? But you shouldn't write art that is influenced by business brain, because then it loses your truth. You should be creating for you, and then the business brain should go, hey, you created this, so I'm going to sell this. In fact, my mentor in the music industry, he told me, he goes, no one cares about your music. They care about you. So if they don't care about you, it doesn't matter how good your music is. They're probably not going to buy it, especially if you're an a-hole. And if you don't believe that, how many people are quote-unquote canceled because they're a-holes? I'm just saying. Brand. So yeah, that's something that writers make mistakes on. They don't market properly. They just push, which is known as just advertising. I'm not saying you can't advertise. Think of your ratio, okay? If you brand post more, then you can advertise. So for every 4 brand posts, this is a good rule of thumb, you could do 1 advertisement. So if it's my adventure, my thoughts on fantasy, maybe something about my family, and then maybe something about how many pages I wrote or how many words I wrote. That's your 4 adventure posts, your 4 brand posts. So now you could be like, oh, my book is available. Go to makearightlefthear.com. Right? Now you've earned that because people are following you. They're interested in your journey. They want to see you succeed. They want to see how you fail and succeed, your trials and tribulations, okay? Just like they're reading a book, right? You read a book for tension and conflict and resolution. So think of your brand in the same way. So as they see you doing trials and tribulations, failure and success, overcoming, and then because they're involved emotionally in your adventure, they then see my book is available. Go to makearightlefthear.com. And they're like, oh, they are an author. I've been following them. So that's the difference between not marketing properly and also refusing the market. Because a lot of times what happens is authors think, I don't have a book out, or I don't have a new book out. I have old books, but I don't have a new book out. So I'm not gonna market. I have nothing to market. What do I have to market? But in reality, your books are not brand marketing. Your books are the byproduct. You always have something to market. It's you. And everything you care about and believe about, and your story as a person, your journey is the brand. All right. Obviously, if you have any questions on that, feel free. Number 5, no long-term career plan. Look, sometimes you think, I have this great book. I have a really good idea. I'm going to write this book. And your entire writing career is based off of one book. But you can't build a career on one book. And you could also get burnt out if you're trying to get a book out every 3 to 6 months, obviously. But what is your long-term plan beyond your book? So something that I always recommend to people, especially when I talk to my clients one-on-one, map out the next 3 to 5 years. Think about if you think about two things: your books, and your career. Okay, so maybe think about your series arcs, maybe your release schedule, maybe how to grow your marketing. What can I do to expand my marketing? Am I only marketing on social media? Am I not involved in the community? If so, how do I get involved in my community? If I am involved in my community, how do I expand on what I've been doing? And rule of thumb is every 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10 years. That's how you should be looking at your plans. You can adjust those plans as you go. They are malleable. They are not staccato. They are not stuck. They are not frozen in place just because you wrote it. But they are a good guideline. And the good rule of thumb is if you are in the same place for a year and haven't moved either linearly to another area at that same level but in a new community or expanded to a new community, or you haven't advanced slightly because of that opportunity, then you need to start mixing things up. You got to break some stuff and you got to rethink and reevaluate. If you're stuck for more than a year in one location, even if it's good, like you're like, I'm doing real good here, you got to say, how do I either linearly move to left or right to try to create more opportunities, and how do I create an opportunity to step up and make something else happen? So that's a good rule of thumb when it comes to planning. But ultimately, you should think, how many books do I want to publish? What kind of publishing schedule do I want? Because you got to break it up. You got to go, I have writing time and I got business time. I got to do business stuff. But ultimately, you should have your interviewing lists. What podcast, FM, AM, college, newspapers, what's out there. Start making your lists. I do 30 minutes a day. And that 30 minutes a day is I'll sit there. It's not how many I could get. It's that I do 30 minutes and I'll start putting together, podcasts names. All right. And I do the research. Okay. Who what's the email? Who's the host? What do they talk about? And I build my lists. And so that's every day, 30 minutes. Once I get the list to a certain number, then I start back at the top and I just start emailing them. And that's only for 30 minutes, though. So if I only email 2 people in 30 minutes, I only email 2 people in 30 minutes. The point is consistency. The other thing I do is I look at what events are going on around my area. I look at free events. I look at gatherings. I look at paid events, whatever the case is. For me, at my level, because I've been doing this for 20 years and I do have a background, especially in the writing community of screenwriting and all these other things, but I'm also a writing teacher and a developmental editor, and I have some pretty good credits when it comes to that behind the scenes. I also look for speaking opportunities within these gatherings. So if there's, an event or a festival or a market, I try to say, how can I get involved to add some value to these things? Not that I am the value, but instead of saying, what can you provide to me? I say, what can I help you? What can I provide to you to help create opportunities or interest, Hey, ciao, bello, and the beard, salve, amor. What's up, young lady? We're talking about long form careers, my friend. Boop. Where's the thing? Oh, there we go. Boop. Wait, is this it? Boop. That's too close. Should we go here? No, we're gonna go here. Boop. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? That's a big one that I feel I should go a little deeper into. But at the end of the day, you should be looking at your long-term career. All right. You should be saying to yourself, what lists do I have to create? What should I be looking into? And it really does help. Like, writing books is important, don't get me wrong. But you have to get involved with your community in person and online. You got to find press opportunities. Because remember, you're the boss and you don't have a publisher and you don't have an agent, right? Let's say you do have an agent or a publisher. You still technically have to do these things. But at the end of the day, if I want to make money selling books, I have to create other opportunities. So think about your 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10-year goals and how your writing schedule will influence those years, how your lists to create opportunities will influence those years, and of course, how you will invest any money that comes in, organize that money, and start developing passive income so you are not reliant on book sales but you have money making money for you. Because remember, you can't work 24 hours, but money can. That's a big thing that changed my life. Because I don't know, without getting into the craziness of it, if you have $100,000 or more in a trust, and you have to have $100,000 at least in a trust, there's so much you could do with that that helps sort of like fuel itself. Not only that, but the interest on $100,000 in the States is like 10 grand a year. So that's not bad. That's not bad. I'm just saying for passive income. All right. Anyway. Any questions on that? Feel free to jump on it. So those are the 5 mistakes writers make in their careers. But I got an extra one. I have a bonus mistake that some people make, and I will definitely. Oh, what's this? Sorry, Thomas, got called away. Shrinking violet is someone who is proper shy that don't like to draw attention to themselves. Ow! Shrinking violet. Is that also a reference to the purple plants? I don't know. You gotta let me know. But that sounds like an over the pond reference. You know what's funny? I'm an introvert. I like to be home. I like to stay home. I don't want to be bothered. Believe it or not, if I'm around a lot of people, it's very draining. But you gotta put on the clown mask and you gotta entertain, when you're in front of like a whole bunch of people, and that worked out because I became an entertainer. But once I decided that I had to get on stage, or I had to get in front of the camera, or that I had to talk to people, I had to practice and learn how to break out of that shell and develop my skills to interact with, because I had to. Like I wanted this career more than anything in the world. I wanted to be in entertainment, whatever that looked like. If it was in front of the camera, behind the camera, if it was on the page, behind the page, whatever the case is. I've done it all in this business, and I've been doing it for over 20 years, and I love it, and it's the only thing I ever wanted to do. And I knew I had to break habits that restricted me from being able to go out there and do stuff. Because that was the hardest thing, was being in a room of opportunity, which is basically like there's people of note there, or, just making friends with the right people can lead to the other meetings. Not that you should be making friends for opportunity, but in reality, like, you have to get involved. You have to build relationships. And being in those rooms of opportunity and not being able to move, like to be like frozen, like, I don't want to, I got to talk to them, then I got to keep in touch. Like, I had to change my brain. I had to remind myself, this is the life I want. I should want people in my life that are these people. I should want friendships. And that was one of the hardest things about being an introvert and starting this career when I was very young. But breaking down those walls and those fears, and coming home in the beginning and being like, like I was a fool. Like, I must have been an idiot. I sounded like an idiot. I was an idiot. And you'd always just beat yourself up with that stuff, because that's, I don't know if other introverts do that, but, you don't want to be a fool. And it's like, am I a charlatan? Do I know what I'm doing? Your first couple of years, like, oh, I'm an imposter syndrome going on. Like, am I really good? Maybe I'm nothing. These people are so good. But the thing is, no matter your level, you deserve to be in the room. As long as you're willing to do the work to improve, the work to get involved, the work to add value to the tables you join or create, you deserve to be there. So when I started finding myself more and more, when I started finding myself in more and more rooms of opportunity, over the years, I got better and better at just going, hey, nice to meet you. And maybe saying a comment or a joke, or knowing a little something about the people that were going to be in that room, doing research. So when I got there, I'd be like, oh, I could make a joke or a reference to something. If I knew they liked the Jets, I would know enough about the Jets to say something about the Jets, etc., etc. But then you become like really good friends with them, and then like, it's so helpful. But it is something I had to break. I had to break that shrinking violet element. That's the best joke I've heard today. Which, because I rambled on, what is the reference to that's the best joke I've Seriously though, when I talk to anyone about writing since discovering your channel, I mention your YouTube page because you're so helpful for learning how to go about the process. Not just from the writing side, but all of these details as well. Usually this stuff is not talked about. I really appreciate that, Ro. And, obviously, I wrote the books on how to be successful in entertainment, and that includes for writers. But it's because when I was younger, everything that was told to me was the art stuff. Oh, you're in a band, you got to play shows. That's how you build your audience. Yeah, but no one's coming to the shows. You got to play more shows then. But no one's at the shows. Well, just play more, and eventually people will show up. But no one's coming to the shows. Play shows with other bands. But no one's coming to see those other bands either. So shows didn't equal audience. But that is one of the misconceptions I was taught. And it was all over the place. It was, you had to pay to play. You got to buy tickets from us. We're going to buy them at discount, and then you could sell the tickets to whoever you want. And we're obviously not going to sell the tickets full price to our friends because we want audiences to go there. But why am I selling tickets to friends and family that already know us to come see us play and then beg them every time we have a show? So eventually they're going to be like, I'm done talking to this guy, because every time I see them, they're like, come to my show and spend $10 or $20. So I had to learn the business, because people weren't teaching me the business. They were teaching me the art, the dream, the be so good they can't ignore you. And it wasn't until I learned the ins and outs and erased the misconceptions and learned the nuance of those quote unquote misconceptions, I started developing. So my whole life, including when I had the theater, I helped people come in, even if they weren't necessarily names. I would let them use the stage for free, etc., etc. My life pretty much has been dedicated to deleting and erasing those misconceptions and realigning and reframing people's brains and stuff like that. Oh, that I'm an introvert? Yeah, that is the best joke I've heard today. Look, I am an introvert who has trained himself to be an extrovert. I worked very, very hard to not be an introvert and to step out of my comfort zone and, take risks, which helped my comedy career, because I was comfortable saying anything I wanted. 100% with what you just said there, Thomas. I am not sure what you're agreeing with, but if it is what I said, awesome. I don't know if you're agreeing with the introvert stuff or the misconceptions or the ultimately learning the business too, and giving back to the community. I understand it though. Brian Malco says the same thing. I think he lied too. People wear me out, and that's just thinking about talking. Look, as soon as I come home from any event or any gathering, I'm on the couch or in bed, or I sit down and I am just like, I need 10 minutes of quiet. I need to reallocate here. Even when I was really in the industry, the music industry, because we played festivals and coliseums and stuff like that. Not that we were headlining concerts, we would play shows at coliseums, and we'd be opening for bands that were the draw. Let's just put that out there. But ultimately, I would hide sometimes too. Like if I'm like, all right, I need to recharge for a second before I get back out there. But even in the film and television industry, oh man, having a moment to just sit by yourself is good, but you got to get back in there. Put me in, coach. You got to get up and go back in. It's a lot. Yeah, I'm reading the book very slowly, but because it's so full of nuggets and it's helpful to soak up a bit at a time. Great stuff. Very well thought out. Thank you, Ro. I appreciate that. I know the book could feel dense at times, but it is thorough. I'll say that. My goal was to almost answer potential questions by explaining things in depth. But I also try to add some humor in there and stuff. That's right. A little of this, a little of that. I'm like a frog. That's funny. Hannah Hart, what's up? Hi. Right now I'm trying to put my Kingdom Hearts Rubik's Cube back together that I messed up and haven't been able to put back together. I know that feeling. I haven't been able to put my Rubik's Cube. I didn't have toys when I had a half a Slinky once, but I straightened it. So I get your frustration. All right, that's a Ghostbuster reference. Ghostbuster 2 reference. I can often be found in the loos. I'm assuming loos is the bathroom, and I can understand that. That's really where you could splash some water on your face. You could sit down for 10 to 15 minutes. Not on the floor, though. That's kind of disgusting. I mean, metaphorically, sit down, you know. Though after a lifetime of building protective walls, it's a bugger to climb out of the pit. Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. COVID hit, by the way. I don't know if you know about this thing. It's a little thing that hit the world. And like everything shut down. Obviously, you know that. But the industry shut down. So I went from working on set all the time to, you know, getting calls for Saturday Night Live, getting calls for this. You know, we were working on TV stuff. I had a movie that we were in pre-production for that we were going to film that obviously I never got to film now. But 1 year turned into 2 and 3 and 4 and eventually it was 5. And now it's 5 years later. I couldn't see myself going back to the sets. I could see myself working in a writer's room, though those are fading away because of AI, and also they are because of streaming. Streaming just kind of says, hey, write this episode at home and send it in. Writer rooms are fading away, but I couldn't see myself. I just the grind. I guess because I'm almost fit. I'm 47. I know it's not really super old, but you know, I'm not in my 20s or 30s anymore. You know? Oh, by the way, I am in Act 2 of my story and found out that I had actually missed the chapter. So now I have to do 27 chapters. Woohoo! That's amazing, Hannah Hart. Boom, boom, boom. Amazing, Hannah Hart. Oh, you just reminded me. Let's do the bonus mistake writers make in their careers. And then we'll go over the poll. Boom. Underpricing books. Underpricing books equals undermining your perceived value. Readers equate price with quality. So what is the fix to this, though? You know, you got to research genre price norms, use sales strategically instead of permanent discounts. Basically what I'm saying is a lot of times we go, if I sell the book for $9.99, people will buy it because it's $10. I'm only going to make $2 on the book, but you know, I would rather people buy the book. But in reality, value dictates sales, okay? So when I first started getting into consulting, because people were like, hey, teach me what you do. And I was like, all right. And I started helping people, and then people were like, hey, so-and-so recommended you. I would charge very little. And I found that people were either taking advantage of me or taking advantage of my time. But once I raised my prices to like consulting prices, people, A, took it seriously, and B, I weeded out all the people who weren't serious. It's the same thing with books. So if you have books for sale, what you do is look at like-minded books or similar books of your genre type, and price them at the price. You know, like this is a hardcover 6x9 self-help. It's 100. It's like 100,000 words, but it's what is it? 300? What is it? It's like 300 and something pages, right? So I went and I looked up similar books that ultimately, whatchamacallit, boop. So I was like, book size, book page, word count, etc., hardcover, and that's how I came up with my price. Now, of course, fantasy books at the same size, and it would be a little bit cheaper, if not a lot cheaper. But then I did that with the paperback, and then I did it with the ebook. You shouldn't be pricing based on, well, this is my first book, or I'm not really a known author, because the price is the price. So are you a professional author? Are you a serious author? Well, then charge those real professional serious prices. That doesn't mean you should be charging $80 for a book, unless of course it's a special edition and it's like a collect, because you could sell the 3 books in a pack. Feel comfortable, know you can do it. It's all right. because the people who want to support you and the people that are interested in that book are going to pay the price. And it's better to sell 10 books where you make $7 than it is to sell, 10 books where you make $3 or $2. You gotta trust in you. Hey, Flowers, do you find yourself looking for exit routes when you in a room of strangers? Well, that's a good question. That is a good question. I am always looking for exit routes just for cool, Hannah. Now there's a writing contest that has the genre that's presented in. It's a novel contest where you could do a story where the main character is either in another world or like Portal Fantasy. Portal Fantasy. Unless you're just talking about they're just in another world. That's cool. Congratulations. Flowers says, I always know where the exits are. And well, you should, Fire Marshal Bill. I've learned to only see bands I know the songs of, which is, because the energy it takes just to go see a band. If I see bands with new material, overwhelming is mental. And shut right down. It's like, ugh. I want to hear the hits. Play for whom the bell tolls. Anyway, so to wrap up underpricing, and then we'll get to the pros. Just trust that you are worth the price of the book. Oh, prices I agree to. When I was a driving instructor, I was the most expensive in my area and the busiest too. That's because it's 100%. It's like your value is almost indicative of the price. So if I tell people, look, I consult for $100 an hour, right? Like back in the day, it was almost $300 an hour. And the people that hired me, they hired me at 10-hour retainers. That was the minimum. And those are the people I knew would pay, hire, and have me on. But if you're talking to somebody that's like, if I remember distinctly, especially back in the day, if I was like, look, I'll hook you up, I'll do you a favor, I'll charge you like whatever it is, $20 an hour, just to help you out. I just want to help you out. They'd be like, oh, okay, but can I pay you next week? Well, you gotta pay 10 hours up front. You gotta do the retainer. Oh yeah. Could I do half now, half later? And I'd be like, okay. Now I don't care. Now this is what because I'm not in that world anymore, and I'm, I've created a system where it's all right, and now I can. But it's still, at the same time, I noticed the people that were paying the higher price rarely tried to get more, if that makes sense. Like Wimpy, they'd be like, "Hey, can I get $2 for a hamburger today, and I'll pay you back on Tuesday?" I had a little baby cousin that used to say that all the time. Just fucked her. Was obsessed with that cartoon. Popeye, I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's it. To another world, or drawn into the game-like world, I might see if I could do this. It's already started since July 7th through September 29th. 50,000 minimum words, 80,000 max. It's on. Do it. Do it. I like it. You got this, Hannah. Hannah Hunt. All right. Well, I hope those 6 mistakes really got you thinking, and I hope it was effective. I tend to think of hardback pricing as 15 plus, depending on how long the story is. A longer book, depending content. But again, nonfiction is different pricing than fiction, so that's something to keep in mind. Memoir is different than both of those. Autobiography is different than all 3 of those. And then if it's a textbook, that's a whole other story. So you still have to look at genre base, page, word count, etc., and is it hardcover or paperback? And then, of course, the size. So this is 6'9". This is 6'9", but there are, you got the smaller ones. So, the size also size matters. But again, Brandon Sanderson was talking about how his books, as big as they are, they can't be priced for the size, if that makes sense. Like, he's like, his books are so big that his price margin goes down because there is still like a maximum you can charge in books like that. So that's something. I can pay you Wednesday a week. I appreciate it. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like a 6.9 hardcover book is going to be the price it is for that genre in a certain number. Obviously, if it's if it's 30 pages, you're not going to charge somebody $20. But fantasy is fantasy, So it is what it is. All right, what do we got here? Poll. What is the poll? Oh, let me do the thing. Whoop. Oh, wait. I'll leave that up now. Poll. Today's poll. Where's my poll? Oh, here we go. Where's my poll? Okay. What's the best advice you've ever received about a writing career? Oh, yeah. All right. Boop. So the poll today was, what's the best advice you've ever received about a writing career? We have study the business of writing. We have build your network. We have don't compare yourself to others, and learn to pitch. All right. We have 7 votes. I'm assuming everyone in the room has already gotten their votes in. So let's do it. Let's talk about the vote. I'm going to end it. Bloop. The winner is don't compare yourself to others. Now, this is interesting because, as you can see, I just recently talked about the misconceptions that were taught to me in every field, by the way. When I was in acting, they said you need a headshot and you need a reel. A reel is basically like my performances, like, oh, here's my comedy reel. Here's my drama reel, right? And a headshot. You need, right? You don't need those things. They're tools that can help you with certain things, but you don't need them, right? And on top of it, if you cut your hair, you have to get new headshots. If you get older, every year you should get new headshots, right? So you're always, anyway. But they say it's because it leads to casting. But I could go on and on about that. And I'm not, because this is a writing channel. But so the thing that's interesting is, the majority of everyone in the group said, don't compare yourself to others. And that's very artist brain. I put it in there for purpose. Right? But study the business of writing got 14%, so that made me excited. Build your network is 0 and learn to pitch is 0. And that's because the misconceptions of the industry are always pushing, hey, you should show, don't tell. Hey, your book should be, you should be writing to market. Hey, your book should be this many words. Hey, you're the, right? But they don't, it's very, it's not often, I should say, that people openly discuss the business of it. Like, learning to pitch is a powerful thing. So I talked about how I spoke with some people of a big book chain, book chain. If I didn't know how to pitch, if I didn't know that I had to make a media press kit for podcasts, if I didn't know I had, how to come in with a market share sheet or, or a breakdown sheet or something like that, I can't have those meetings. I'd be laughed out of the room. It's like the first time I ever sat in a room at a record label, my first big opportunity, and I was like, well, you guys have Opeth, we're heavy metal, but they were a jazz label, and the guy's like, you're not Opeth though. Opeth sells. Opeth is a band that sells. We make money on Opeth. We'd have to put money into you to even see you get out there. But we are traditionally a jazz label. But Opeth is Opeth. And that was like a good lesson. That was the first time I learned to have a notepad with me when I'm on the phone. Because the notepad, you write some questions or you write thoughts that you don't want to forget or things you need to remember about the person you're calling. But it's things like that is business stuff that no one ever told me about in music. They just said your songs have to be great. And don't make your songs longer than 4.5 minutes because you want them on the radio. I think it's less now. It's definitely less than 4 minutes now. Right? Like, it was all like art stuff, but it wasn't real business, like the nitty gritty stuff. So it's always been interesting. But but you do need to build your network, your community, your friends, your circle of interest, and you do need to learn to pitch. You need to be able to pitch not only your book, but who you are, your career, what you provide, your expertise, how you lead, follow, and advise at different tables. And you got to be able to do that in what we call an elevator pitch, which is 1 to 3 sentences. No, and by the way, those sentences can't be 200 words each. It's just, what I'm saying. All right, what do we got here? Oh, and if I win the grand prize of 5,000, my novel will be scheduled for. Woohoo! That's awesome. Well, we hope you win. Break some legs. Make. You deserve it, Hannah. You put in that hard work and make it happen. Headshot, is that a reference to working in a... No. It could be, though. If anyone doesn't know, a headshot is just, it's your face. And this content is free. Hannah, you should put all your heart into it because you are Hannah Hart. You got this. We have faith in you. You should have faith in you. I chose Don't Compare, but am learning the importance of the business side due to your book. I think that's one thing the book really will emphasize is that I'm very clear in the book that I'm not saying don't use the artist's brain. I'm saying that we mostly use our artist brain. But you got to learn to use the business brain a little bit more in the beginning, and then slowly but surely, the artist brain gets to really have a lot of fun with that. I have to figure out what my story will be first, and the world. Well, brainstorm. Write down some ideas, bullet points. Come up with at least 5, and then play off of those. To be fair, Thomas, my advice not compare came from my English teacher when I was 15. Everyone else said to get a real job. Oh, yes. You want to be a writer? That's awesome. You should have a plan B. You should be a construction worker or, I don't know, work in the union. Work for a union, and do trades. Oh, as if that's also not hard. So I got to dedicate my entire life to a trade that is difficult to get into. Then I got to build relationships, orchestrate myself into the community of plumbers, and then make my way and get somebody to, I don't know how it works overseas, but here sometimes you have to have somebody vouch for you. And then you get into the union, and then, you're making $60 to $100 an hour now, but at the same time, imagine you put that time into being an author, a writer, and not just, hey, I write every day, but put time into your career. Like, you can have the same outcome. It's beautiful. Get a real job. I always hated get a real job. So my Hannah Hart is a Kingdom Hearts name that I took for my life in Kingdom Hearts quiz. My real name is Cassidy Bush. Why I just say Hannah Hart because it's the name that's popped up there. I know a lot of the people's real names. I don't use them. I don't use them on the social medias. Unless they were like, hey, feel free to enjoy. Less than 4-minute songs. Ouch. I would feel cheated with an album full. Well, that's the thing. They don't really make albums anymore. It's all about singles. They're not making records. They're just like, what's the song of the month? What's the song of the week? When I was in the industry, it was all about, 8 songs. Don't make it longer than one disc. It was now it just seems like people are releasing singles, and well, they should. Everyone has a home theater, not a home theater, a home studio. Everybody's able to record on their own. Everybody, I got a whole setup too to record. That's why I even bought this mic for the vocals from Focus. And then I was just like, I want to care about music again. I love music in a sense, like in my heart of hearts. Like, my guitar is right there. Like my acoustic is out. I could play the acoustic, just the fiddle faddle. I got my electric over there, but I look at it and I would rather not. If it's not 15 minutes long, it's not a song. You would like music from the my Altanian band. All our songs are like 6 minutes to 15, 16 minutes. Walk Under the Moon is like, I think 16 minutes. We wrote long songs. We wrote like stories. Like they were musical stories and sometimes we sang Broadway-ish, but it's all fun. I'm old-fashioned with my musical tastes and gaming tastes. Yeah, me too, I'm a sucker for finish with my woman, cause she couldn't help me with my mind. People think that I'm insane, cause I am frowning all the time. Throw a Sabbath song at me, I'm happy. Or white men came across the sea. They took our hands And I can't remember the words. Well, many came across the sea. They brought us pain and misery. Yeah, something like that. You know, some old Iron Maiden. I don't like new Iron Maiden. Oh, curly haired and my last name, young man or lad, and I'm a female. Interesting. Yeah. Run to the hills. I can't do those notes. Run for your lives. That's how I sing my songs, Tom, without the lyrics. I mean, sometimes you just forget it, and there it is, you know. But you could start off strong, you know, like, Mr. Crowley, doom, 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 what went on inside your head? Doom, 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 do, 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 do. Yeah, I don't know the rest. When we used to play live, sometimes I'd forget lyrics, and I would just, no one knows. That's the thing. Like, when you're performing music, not actually, that's not true. Acting, I got away with it too. But when you're performing music, no one knows the song, especially if they don't know you. So they don't know if the lyric is, you know, I'm standing in my head, boo boo ba boo ba boo boo. Like, they don't know, and most of the time they can't understand you anyway. Especially when this is what I don't understand. Usually after 6 minutes, that's funny. They're between German and Italian. And well, they should be, Hannah Hart. Well, they should be. I don't know if anyone out there listens to bands that scream, but where they're like, rah, 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 rah. Why do you have lyrics? If I was in those bands, okay, and I was the vocalist, I would write lyrics for the book, and maybe for the love of whatever. But I would never sing the correct lyrics. I had a buddy. I don't know if you guys know the band. Why can't I think of the name? It's not My Dying Fetus. It's a band like that. I can't remember the name. It's been so long. But the singer, I knew the singer, and I was really close with the singer's girlfriend. And he said when the band would write music, they would play the music. And whatever, you know, right? And he said he would sit there with the mic and just go, and he would just try to come up with these like grunting rhythms, because like his singing is also grunting. And then he would record the grunting rhythms, and then he'd go back and just kind of fill in like what the words could be in the grunting rhythm. But then when he played live, it sounded like he was just going and all I thought was that he was singing about, like, you know, corn muffins or something. Like, I love corn muffins and everybody wants corn muffins. You know, I like singing. I like the vocals, you know. Dude, one of these days you should play a song for us. You mean like with the guitar and the vocals? There's music all over the internet. Discovery singing. If you really want to listen to my music, it's on makearightlefthear.com. See what I did there? I put it back to the lesson from earlier. You just go to makearightlefthear.com. Oh, I got a present for everybody. This is gonna excite you. I got something for everybody. You ready? Is everyone ready? Please, if you aren't sitting down, you need to be sitting down. I got something. Here it goes. Boom! Behold! The sword of bloop bloop! Yeah, that's right. You can get your cups, your mugs, and your ware. Make a right left here. Enjoy yourself. Behold! The sword of bloop bloop! Welcome. I shall take on the evil, scary, villainous, vile Bob. Woohoo! Okay, we'll look for a link on your site. Yeah, the band, the music is there. The music. Yeehaw! That's right. It is official. That I will buy. I made a lot. I made a whole bunch of things for the Sword of Bloop Bloop. So you just go to the website and then you just scroll down. You scroll them down until you see the store. It looks so funny, right? Behold, the Sword of Bloop Bloop. I like how the night came out. I used purple for the outline. I like the letters. So there you go. Boom. The Sword of Bloop Bloop. So good. I had a lot of fun making that. All right. Other than that, thank you. Yeah, I tried to get it as like to like those sort of, but like as much as I could to get that like kind of like sword like that. It can't even. That's what she said. It can't even lift the thing. Is that true? Let me see. Let me give him. Yeah, he's having trouble lifting it. That's funny. Look at him. He's like, oh my God, it's so big. It's a sword of bloop bloop. All right. We got here. My biological name is Elisa, means God is my oath. Well, God is abundance. It's Hebrew. And my last name, Fowler, means someone who hunts wild birds. Like Amy Fowler, right? On Big Bang Theory. Interesting. My real name is Tommaso Giuseppe Bellezza. Try saying that 5 times fast. Like a car with a big bonnet. Speaking of big bonnets. All right. All right. So we did pretty good today. I really hope you learned some interesting things. The 5 mistakes that writers make in their career. It's like it's the hammer of doom. Now I gotta make the hammer of doom. By the way, the whole time I was making this, I'm just going, behold! And the lady I live with, she's like, what are you doing down there? I'm like, I'm making the sword of blue blue. And then 2 would look at me like, Daddy, what are you doing up there? And I'd be like, you don't know? I am working on the sword of bloop bloop. Hey, Afghani, what's up? Sorry, just got here. Can you do the 5? Yeah, sure. Let me get back to that. 1 second. Let me see. I can't find the page. I can't. You know what you could do, Afghani? No. It's funny. We missed you, by the way. What's the deal? You top fans. You're not even in the top 3. What's going on, Afghani? You're number 7. All right. Very disappointed. Why does this happen to me when I have 2 small cubes together and then I have to separate them? I don't know. I asked the doctor the same question, and he says we're going to have to remove it. Men in white coats to visit. You cannot steal my sword. I should have people visit me and be like, listen, sir. All right, so that's everything. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. Liking helps the channel. Sharing the video likes the channel. Subscribing and hitting that bell icon helps the channel. Just so you know, it's very, very helpful. So, you want me to bring down the sword? Don't say that. Don't say that about his hammer. You want me to bring down the hammer? You want me to put down the hammer? Buy my stuff. Buy Tom's stuff. Yes, please. If you have a chance, go to Make a Right Left here. Please share the videos. You don't have to buy anything, actually. You could if you just share the stuff, that means more to me than anything in the world. Share, subscribe. Tell people they should subscribe to the channel. Send the channel to people. Send videos to friends. Be like, yo, this guy won't shut up. He has a great beard, and he has made the sword of bloop bloop. Which reminds me, if you haven't blooped the beard, you could also bloop that like button. Because that's what we do here. That's what we do. Enjoy tons of stuff. See, I like that. It's a little bit more passive. I like that. With that said, remember my book is available. I just got another review, so I'm at 16 reviews. I'm pretty excited about that. I will have some more information on more store placement, by the way. We are definitely in talks for placement in a store. Tell people about Tom. I appreciate that. I appreciate all the love. I appreciate the support, even if we're having fun with it. But yeah, I'm in talks with some people for some big. So I'll keep you in the loop with that. Obviously, I'll be talking about it on social of the media. What else? Oh, I did another 800 words on this book last night. We're getting there. We're flying through. I'm about to hit the chapters that I feel like I'm gonna fly through, because I got the first half of the book is all the information, and then the second half is explanation, if that makes sense. It's examples. I'm off up north for a week. I'll take your book for a read. Oh, man, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it when you can. By the way, hard-earned money spent on me. I do not just take lightly. It's not like I'm like, oh, thanks, appreciate it. You don't understand. When I hear that you purchased the book, or I see that books were sold, or that you're supporting me in whatever way it is, even if it's like a membership or whatever, if you ask the people around me, I'm always like, I'm just so grateful that people are helping me or supporting me or lifting me up or whatever the case is. And it's not something I see and then walk away from. It stays with me, and it's very it's you saw the time my friend bought me a birthday cake and I was eating it on the thing. I'm a very emotional guy. Okay, I don't hide that stuff inside. I'm not like, hey, I don't cry. I get emotional. So I am truly blessed and honored to have such love like that. You might have to get some glue and tape. The soda bloop bloop should arrive. Bye bye. Woo! Bloopity bloop bloop bloop. Excellent. The soda bloop bloop. Oh yeah, Kool-Aid Man breaks through. Thomas Shit. Oh yeah. Kool-Aid. That brings me back. Do I have any? Oh, I have an update on. So, if anyone is going to follow the Patreon for the exploration of the zero draft to the first draft to the third draft, and show you the behind the scenes, and just so you know, paying for that tier also gets you an education. So, what I do on those posts is not only do I share the behind the scenes, but I actually explain it, and I give assignments. There are assignments attached to each post to sort of look at your own work. And then there's sort of my explanation of what I did, why I did it, and where I'm going with it. And then there's sort of how you can, I reframe it for yourself, sort of advice. And then there is questions that you could ask yourself when looking at whatever variation that you're looking at on the post. And then, of course, assignments to help out. I made it really nice like that. Morticia's gonna have to get a job if she's not gonna contribute to the cleaning of the dishes. That's all I'm saying. You either help with the chores or you gotta get a job. That's what my father told me when I was 2. And that's I'm following a how to put the Rubik's Cube back together. It's not broken. I have to spin the cubes. That's the only way I can solve a Rubik's Cube, is by buying it brand new without it being messed up. I like to purchase it together. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, yeah. So the whole year. When I say year, I mean there's more than 12 months worth of material for that Patreon tier that will be available on September 1st. I will make a post about it, all that other stuff. So that's there, and it should be fun and exciting. She was at the vet this week and asked her had she bought her Morticia, are you paying today, or is mommy paying today? Meow. I used to pull the stickers off and put them back on. That's funny. Just color over the stickers. At least Morticia has an excuse. My boys don't. Those little feckers. Thinking outside the box. Cube. Reference to the book. Very funny, Ro. Right? Entrepreneurial brain. You got to think outside the box in a proactive way. Oh, you got to find solutions by thinking outside the box in a proactive way. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. What else? I guess that's everything. That's everything. We did a lot today. We kicked some butt. Very happy with the approach. Let's see. Oh, does anyone have any questions about your writing? Do you have any questions you want me to answer? Do you want me to go over anything? Yes, no, maybe so. I'm always happy to ask questions. I'm here. I'm here to do it. That's what I like. That's the voice I make. All right. Excellente. Oh, real quick. For anyone who did purchase the book, the breaking down, this book right here. If anyone purchased it, if you haven't done so already, could you please write a review on the Amazon and or the Goodreads, one or the other, your choice. You don't have to. I'm just saying if you feel obliged to. If you're like, hey, this book, I kind of liked it. I liked his words. I think I'm gonna give him a 5. That is my reading voice. That's how I'm going to read Tolkien from now on. Anytime I read Lord of the Rings, unless I get the Gollum. I'm like, Gollum. He's a stupid hobbits. My precious. I will, but I am halfway through Nicole. Oh, the Nicole. Please take your time with the Nicole book. Her book is well worth the experience of a slow absorption, I assure you. I might put it on my Christmas list. My book? Oh, man. Hannah Hart. Lisa, you amazing. You lovely. You're powerful. We just did some jazz there. Thank you so much. Praise to the power. I'd better not read your book on the train. Why not? So it might keep you awake. You'd be like, "Whoa, look at these words." There are no inappropriate photos in that book anymore. I had to take them out. I got yelled at. Do they let you, if you didn't purchase it from here? Do they let you? Wait, what? Do they let you if you didn't purchase it from here? Did I miss something? Am I missing? I better not read your book on the train. I think something maybe didn't pop up. I don't know. Why is my brain not seeing something? Oh, the Mutter Nutter on CH31. Please call the doctor. Write a review. If no, you can write a review. You just don't get a verified mark. But again, if you don't have an Amazon account, you can't write a review. However, on Goodreads, if you have an account on Goodreads, you can write a review, and you don't have to purchase the book. Yes, you can review arcs. That's right. You can review arcs. Arky darkies, you gotta read those arcs. Ooh. I was talking to my friend about arcs the other day, and she paid a service to have the book put into this pool, and it was just sent out to people to read the book. But she was getting reviews from people who don't read her genre, and in the reviews, they're saying, I got this arc book from so-and-so. I'm not really a fan of this genre. So it was really hard to get through because I like a slow burn romance, and this was I don't want to say what the book is, but whatever, like I don't really like horror. I never understood, like, if it's not your genre, don't leave a review based on you didn't like the book. Just be like, I just don't leave a review. Anyway, she paid a good amount of money to be in that ARC pool, and they just was sent to a whole bunch of people that don't like. That's like sending a kid's book. I mean, R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones to a group of children, and be like, can you leave an ARC review telling us what the depth and nuance of the political conflict, uprising, and fall of the Targaryens are? I ARCed Immortal Bloodline, and I won't do it again. Lots of people saying it's a waste of time. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think you might be saying authors are saying it's a waste of time, but I do agree with that. I agree with it. Like, there is a difference between having a newsletter, like having a mailing list, and then developing your fan base and your audience and being like, listen, because you're on the newsletter, you get an ARC copy. If you, looking for a review, an honest review, you'll get the PDF of the book for free. That's different because they are your audience. They are interested in your books. They are, it's not like just random ARC people. And it's just something to think about, just for people in general. Will do, although I will probably do so after finishing. That's fine. Yeah, whenever you look, you're the one giving me your time. I'm not going to implore or impose a time frame. Like, oh no, it's done by Thursday. Blah, 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 blah. That would be irresponsibly rude of me and inhuman and apathetic. Yes, I am saying it's a waste of time. Okay. Since I got written up for being sick 6 different times, I can't do a class for a year that I want. I've been trying to find an actual writing class so I can improve on my writing and become an author. Well, there's always classes at the library. I can't believe your job writes you up. That's ridiculous. That's why I don't jobs. I'm so glad I'm out of the job market. But I tell you right now, I never understood the job market issue. It's like, whatever's. What time is it? Ooh. 3:37. All right. Let's close this out. Let's close that out. Boom, 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 boom. All right, everybody. I think that's it. I think we're done for today. My voice feels like it needs a little resty-dusty. I just want to say before I go, behold the sword of blue. With that said, I think it's time to get it going. I want to give it a thorough read, though, through before giving my review opinion on it. Please do, Ro. Please do. Please do. Woohoo! Been fun. See you next week. You're going to be missed tomorrow, but have fun. Enjoy your week. Much love, much safety. Blessings to you. Till next time, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time.